Hello, everyone. This is Brett Rogers, your host here on the Logos Veritas podcast experience, a place where we come together to learn how to love God, love others, and make disciples. If that sounds like the kind of thing you'd be interested in, glad to have you here. Stay tuned for more. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're joining me right now. This is Brett Rogers on the Logos Veritas podcast, and it is good to see you today, to have you joining with me. Not going to take a lot of time today. We've got something coming up here in just a few minutes and need to get moving. But I do want to be able to touch base with you today and bring up something that I think is good to be able to remember and to dwell on occasionally. Not something brand spanking new that no one's ever thought of. That'd be a serious red flag. But definitely something to be able to take a look at and as you're abiding in the Lord's presence and you're setting your focus on Him, you're looking at Him to ask Him about these things. We're going to take a look here at Numbers chapter 25, starting in verse 1, where it says, "While the Israelites were camped at Acacia Grove, some of the men defiled themselves by having sexual relations with Moabite women. These women invited them to attend sacrifices to their gods, so the Israelites feasted with them and worshiped the gods of Moab." Now, I'll stop there just to say that today, having hookups is not something that's uncommon in our culture. That being said, it's not something that's good in our culture either. There's always the whole thing about sexual relations is all of me for all of you, right? And this is to be done, and the Bible clearly lays out, this is to be done within the context of marriage. Doing it outside of the context of marriage violates God's design for creation, for His people, and His intent for you, right? For me, and for us as a people. We see that it doesn't just affect just one person in this account here in Numbers, that it has a wider sweeping effect, and we're going to see how that plays out here in just a minute. And this isn't just a couple people hooking up and it just is what it is, and so it ain't hurting anybody or anything. Like, no, this is actually they're doing this in worship of other gods. They're doing this to honor other gods. And if you remember something about the Israelites, this little thing that's important, kind of to the whole story of the Hebrew people and everything, like Mount Sinai. Like that whole thing about them basically entering into a marriage covenant with God. They're cheating on Him in this passage. That's not good. We're going to see how that plays out. In this way, Israel joined the worship of the Lord of Peor, Baal Peor, causing the Lord's anger to blaze against His people. The Lord issued the following command to Moses: "Seize all the ringleaders and execute them before the Lord in broad daylight, so His fierce anger will turn away from the people of Israel." So Moses ordered Israel's judges, "Each of you must put to death the men under your authority who have joined in worshiping Baal of Peor, the Lord of Peor." Just then, one of the Israelite men brought a Midianite woman into his tent, right before the eyes of Moses and all the people, as everyone was weeping at the entrance of the tabernacle. You ever had somebody who, when you said that something shouldn't be done or can't be done, looked at you and had the, watch me response? Like, this is what we're seeing right here playing out. Folks saying, well, what do you mean you tell me I can't or can't do something? Of course I can. Well, Paul would say, and by the inspiration of the Spirit, everything is possible, but not everything is beneficial. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And maybe there's someone who you need to be caring about his thoughts and feelings on things and what blesses his heart more than what your own desires are. Verse 7, "When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar and grandson of Aaron the priest, saw this, he jumped up and left the assembly. He took a spear and rushed after the man into his tent." This is horrifying. Phinehas thrust the spear all the way through the man's body into the woman's stomach, so the plague against the Israelites was stopped, but not before 24,000 people had died. Because of this, it goes on to say that Phinehas has a permanent right to the priesthood for his zeal for his God, because in his zeal for God, he purified the people of Israel, making them right with God. As I was reading this, it reminded me of a quote, I think it was from William Carey, who says that he says, "I do not fear failure, I fear excelling in things that do not matter." There's a lot of things that the Lord has positioned us to be able to do, callings that he has on us, good things that he has put in front of us to be able to take part in. But have those things grown to an unhealthy extent to where they are now consuming our affections, our attentions, and the things that are taking us away from the things that really matter for the Israelites? Should you be in relationship with the Moabites, who are extended family to the Israelites? Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Should you be worshiping the false gods that they do? No. Should you be, there's a whole list of things here that we can get into about marrying. There were laws that were set up here about marriage that the Israelites were ignoring. Unions with the people in the land that they were heading into and worshiping false gods. The Lord had warned them all about that. And while they were progressing towards somewhere, they were not doing what he had explicitly told them to do. Are we excelling at things that don't matter? Have we let the callings of God, the things that he has put on our life, that he is bringing us to, that he's the big, the long-term plans that he has for us, are we letting things that could be a part of that gain all of our focus and attention at the expense of actually being with the Lord and being someone who loves him and who cherishes and honors his name, someone who knows him? Are we letting someone who does things for God replace someone who enjoys being with God? Only you can answer that. But in your time with the Lord, this plays out in the New Testament, right? Jesus tells his followers that if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Right? Get rid of the root of that sin. Don't let it keep ensnaring you. We're told to cast off the sin, like the weight of sin that so easily entangles and stuff, and continue pressing on and running the race, right, so we can attain the prize that the Lord has for us, and that's in several places that we can look at. For us here, and especially as we're looking to disciple others, we got to be careful that good does not become the enemy of God. Just because something's good doesn't mean that it's from God. Sure, God can use that to bless us, to bring insight and clarity to where formerly there wasn't. But just because something's good doesn't mean that it is for us now. Just like connecting with family here, the Moabites. Moab seduces Israel. I think I said the Midianites earlier, but these are Moabites. Still relatives of Israel, right? Is it good to connect with your relatives? Yeah. Is it good to let them pull you into worshiping false idols and to cheating on God? There are some relationships that are more important than others. And even with blood, maybe especially with blood, there has to be that line there that I love you and I cannot do this. I cannot dishonor the Lord. I have to serve him and love him first. Are we excelling at things that don't matter? At the risk of not pleasing people, of failing, of having people think that we're inadequate, that we don't measure up? Because if we are, we may be missing the heart of God. And that may take some examination and invitation of the Holy Spirit. Lord, what is it that I have raised up, that I've set up, that I'm worshiping right now, instead of submitting these thoughts, these emotions, these behaviors that I'm engaging in, these ways of living and thinking that I've fallen into, maybe in this rut here. What is it that I need to be freed from and to submit to you? And if we ask, we'll receive. He'll show us these things if we bring them to him. He's the faithful one. So I invite you, as he's speaking to me and to our church family, that as he is working with us and in us, through us to bless other people, let him do the same thing with you. Open up your heart to him. Ask him, Lord, is there anything in me? Is there anything in me, any way in me, any attitude in me that does not bring glory and honor to you, and that stinks of self, of worship of self? And if there is, Lord, would you take that? Would you give me your heart instead? Pleasing him, delighting in him, and blessing his heart has to become our main focus, the thing that drives us. And if we will let him speak to us and transform us, we'll become the people that when we see him, he'll be able to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And I know that's what you want. That's what I want. And I'm looking forward to seeing him on that day and being able to know that, Lord, I gave it all for you. I've submitted my thoughts, my life, my appetite, all of that to you. And it's all for you, Lord. Guys, this is Brett Rogers, the Logos Veritas podcast. Thank you for joining with me today. I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon. God bless you.